Good. So everyone experiences changes in his or her life, and they can be rather insignificant, such as waking up at a different time in the morning, getting a new phone, or having your hair cut. Or they can be pretty major, such as moving to a new country, losing a loved one, or making new friends. The little daily changes we experience, we learn to easily accept and adjust to, but the major ones can be pretty difficult to adjust to. Today, using the TEDx theme of play, learn, build, share, I'm going to explain how to learn to not only tolerate change, but to embrace it, to seize opportunities for change and enjoy them. Play. Major changes can have a serious effect on your life, but that doesn't mean that you have to have a seriously negative attitude. Take, for example, moving. Most of us have probably moved multiple times in our lives. I've moved 6 times, 4 internationally. And when I was in 2nd grade, I moved from the wonderful, amazingly exciting city of Tokyo to the teeny tiny town of Richfield, Utah. I hated it. I hated pretty much everything about it. I hated the smallness of it, and I hated the freezing snow in the winter. And I didn't even like the school. I didn't ever really make friends because I didn't ever want to make friends. I never branched out. My older brother Brady, though, on the other hand, he loved the 9 months that we spent in Richfield. He loved the fact that school was only 5 minutes instead of 60 minutes away from our house. He loved being able to play in the backyard. He loves everything about it. At the time, I thought he was crazy to have even enjoyed the cultural black hole that is Richfield, but looking back, I can see one major difference in how this change affected us: attitude. I had an extremely negative attitude towards moving to Richfield. I despised the fact that I would have to start over and make my life different. I didn't want my life to change, and as a result of my obstinance, I had a terrible time adjusting. My brother Brady, though, he looked forward to the change. He saw it as an opportunity to make his life different, and as a result, he had a much easier time adjusting. Attitude really makes all the difference, and that's why it's so important to have a positive outlook when it comes to change. Because if you focus only on the negatives and think you'll have a bad time, then you'll succeed. You will have a terrible time adjusting, if you ever do. If you focus on the positives and think of it as an opportunity, then you too will succeed, and you'll have a much easier time adjusting. Whether or not we realize it, we learn from changes we experience. You may learn that waking up at 5 in the morning makes you much more tired than when you wake up at 6:30. You may learn that you don't look good with a mohawk. But most importantly, we learn how to adjust to future changes, and we learn new skills that can help us. For example, I've had a very close friend move every year for 6 years straight. And this was really hard for me. But I've learned from this. I've learned how to make new friends, a skill that I wouldn't have if my friends hadn't moved away so much, and that they forced me to branch out and make new friends. I've also learned how to keep in touch with the friends that have moved away. And this will come in very much in handy next year when I'm living on my own in college. Adjusting to change can be difficult, but it's also very beneficial to us because we learn how to adapt to future situations and environments, and we also learn new skills that can help us. Although next I should talk about build, I'm first going to talk about sharing. The way we experience change is unique, but the changes we experience may be similar to changes other people are experiencing. For example, having someone near to you die, whether it be a relative or a beloved family pet. Anyone who's experienced this change knows that it sucks. And seeing the positive side is pretty difficult. For example, a few years ago, my grandfather died, and this is one of the hardest changes I've ever had to experience. But I've learned from this. I've learned that, yes, it sucks, but the death of someone close to you is something that everyone experiences. I now know exactly how it feels to lose a loved one, and I've learned how to move past it and how to cheer myself up whenever I was feeling sad. The most important thing I can do with what I've learned, though, is to share my experiences with someone going through a similar change. Although their situation may not be exactly the same, I can share what I've learned, and I can share my knowledge and thoughts with them, and I can help them get through what other people have helped me get through. We learn a lot by adjusting to change, and we can share our knowledge with other people going through similar adjustments. And whether or not we realize it, this can really make a huge difference in someone's life. Lastly, build. Sharing experiences of adjusting to change builds relationships because you find something in common, and therefore you can connect with others. Sharing builds relationships because you both have experienced the change, and so you both know how it feels to be the other person. You have something in common. You can also build relationships by sharing what you've learned, because you can share what you've learned with someone else and help them get through a new change. Learning only comes from experience. And your experience depends highly on your attitude. And that's why it's so important to keep an open mind and have a positive attitude, because your attitude determines how the change affects you. And so if you control your attitude, you control how the change affects you. Most importantly, we need to remember that change happens. Yesterday, someone told me that the only constant in life is change. We can't avoid change, and that's why we need to learn to embrace it. Ooh, sorry. That's why we need to learn to embrace it. I encourage you to reflect on changes you've experienced and what you've learned from them, and to share your knowledge and what you've learned with other people and find connections with them. But to do this, though, you have to start at the beginning and embrace change. Thank you very much.